We moved into Samuel Grant Amphitheater in 1989, and over the years have built it up so that it has a lot more infrastructure. In my first season there in 1993, it was literally a grass field, a portable stage, porta potties for the audiences to use as the restrooms, and dressing trailers is where we dressed. There were no dressing rooms.
Dressing trailers?
Yeah, there were just some portable trailers that we were crammed into, like 8 of us in a trailer. And if you've ever seen that show Boardwalk Empire, where everything's muddy when you're crossing the street, that was like what it was backstage. Over the years, we've built it out and invested millions of dollars, both our company and the city of Dallas. So now it's this beautiful grass bowl, permanent stage, permanent lighting towers, nice pavilion area. It's about 5 acres that's under control of our company, but it's part of the city of Dallas Park and Recreation System. Our only other home was at the Fair Park Band Shell. So we were there from '71 all the way to 1989, and then they built that giant rock and roll music venue right across from Fair Park. And literally the problem was they were having rock and roll concerts while we were doing Shakespeare at the same time. And it just wasn't gonna work. Rolling Stones and Shakespeare just don't mix. One of the great things about what was happening in the 80s, early 80s, was that Bob Glenn thought that the path to growing the company was hiring movie stars. Sigourney Weaver was Rosalind in one of our productions of As You Like It. Earl Hyman, who was in The Cosby Show, the grandfather, played 2 different times. He played Othello for us one time and King Lear another time. Now these were, before all of them were megastars, but there were definitely people that were in the film and TV world and that helped bring some attention to the productions at the festival. There were a number of times when the company, because it was producing only 1 or 2 shows in the summer at any given time, that was all they were doing, they would have financial difficulties with only producing for 6 weeks out of the year, and the rest of the time not being in existence to the public. It was hard to raise money for the company. Throughout the period of the 90s, the company was led by a really brilliant, charismatic guy named Cliff Redd. And Cliff was a brilliant salesman. He got people really excited about what we were doing. In fact, those 4 seasons that I worked for the company in the 90s was all attributed to Cliff. And Cliff came and found me and recruited me because he thought it would bring a lot more attention to the festival to have these kind of hot-shot directors and actors from Deep Ellum. Unfortunately, at the time, too, Cliff was running a deficit. I'm not quite sure how he managed it, but by the time he left in 2001, the company had a $500,000 deficit against a $500,000 budget. I came in January 1 of 2002, and at the time, it wasn't completely revealed to me how much debt, structured debt, the company had. In my first season, we were operating as normal with a lot of union actors, a really large payroll, and the budgets were set. There was a board meeting, and I was invited to it. I reported directly to the board of directors, and they said, we probably have to cancel the season. I was pretty adamant saying that if we canceled the season, that we would never come back, that the company would die at that point, that we had to find some way to press forward and to make sure we did the show that summer, and that we would find a way to restructure after that summer. I think it's a really unique experience, even for amphitheaters. Most amphitheaters across the country have fixed seating. So there's either benches or some kind of hard seats for people to sit in. This is a natural grass bowl, so what's I think defines it as being really different is people bring their picnic baskets, their own lawn chairs, their coolers, and literally will set up their own little area. They can lay down, they can stand up, they can sit down, and it's a communal environment. So if you forgot your corkscrew and you're enjoying a nice bottle of wine, you just lean over to your neighbor, and certainly they've got one, or somebody across the other blanket has one. It gives kind of a quality of sharing with each other that's a little bit different than other outdoor amphitheaters. I think that the Shakespeare Dallas is a real cultural gem for the city of Dallas and for North Texas. I'm continually wanting more people to know about it because I think it's a bit underknown or underappreciated. Certainly those people that come and make it a tradition of coming, it's really great to see and hear. When I meet adults who have their young 2-year-olds with them and say, I've been coming since I was 2 years old and now I'm bringing my 2-year-old, I think that's a fantastic tradition and it makes me really glad to hear, and I hope that that tradition continues for many years to come. 10 years from now, I see the company growing to the point where it's got a regional or potentially even a national reputation for producing great work, Shakespeare being our cornerstone, but also possibly commissioning and developing new work that would be exported to other theater companies. And something that's I've been passionate about is the opportunity to tour some of our work overseas. So right now we're working on a cultural exchange with Spain with this Quixote project. It's my fast intent to have a production of one of our shows go to Spain, potentially Quixote, potentially also a Shakespeare title, so that the other audiences can experience how we, as Texans, interpret Shakespeare. Expanding in size to be one of the largest theater companies in the Dallas area, at least. And then in global reach, I would certainly think that we have the potential in the quality of our productions to be doing more cultural exchanges. I've spent 30 years making art, and I've made art of every kind. And it's an amazing career, I have to admit. And having been able to work on Shakespeare for the last 15 consistently, but been involved with Shakespeare for the last 20, has been a real blessing for me. It's taught me a lot about humanity, about my own self as an artist, about learning respect. Something as old as Shakespeare, I'm not sure when I was a young avant-garde actor and director running my own theater company, I don't know if I had the same respect for the scale and scope of Shakespeare's work. So that's been a real blessing and something that's been a real growing point for me. And I feel like I'm still growing, I'm still learning from him.